In this video, we're going to take a look at how cities help to pay for stadiums. So, we've talked about this before, but there are positive externalities from sports facilities, such as the more monetary side of these stadiums bring in outside tourists, which spend money on the local business, which helps to benefit the economy as a whole, even if it's not being spent at that stadium. Now, because of that, the government needs to help to subsidize these facilities to help to improve the economic efficiency. The actual teams don't see these benefits of money spent at local bars and restaurants and so forth, and so that's not part of their cost-benefit analysis. And so the government needs to step in to help to kind of bridge that gap. Now, just looking at basic economic theory, it was just that governments maximize the well-being of their residents by, if they finance the subsidy for the stadium by taxes or fees, that would directly impact the people that are going to receive those positive externalities, those positive benefits. The Ramsey Rule, it dictates that sales taxes should be in inverse proportion to the price elasticity demand or serve for which government placed the tax. So basically, putting the tax on the people that would enjoy the benefit of it, in essence. And this helps them minimize the deadweight loss. Now, some economists do think that government should rely on user fees, and these are fees that would directly be paid by the people that are using the facility. Okay? And so that would be things on taxes on the tickets to the games, the parking, and the concessions. Now, they do claim that a public good aspect of a professional franchise are dwarfed by the private consumption that takes place. And so economists will emphasize that teams now place luxury boxes and prime seating has made it difficult for middle to lower income fans to attend professional sports teams. Because of this, the private consumption by the wealthy few has crowded out the public consumption by the broader population. So, in addition to spanning the income distribution, benefits can cut across geographic boundaries. So many of the consumption benefits of a Major League franchise flow out of the city to the residents of the more wealthy suburban areas. The suburbs disproportionately house the people who can afford the tickets to sporting events, the higher tickets, and so they will be the ones bringing in that money, and so it will be the residents outside the city who are benefiting more. And because the cities only get a small fraction of the revenue from the luxury boxes, they're not getting that benefit. And so, again, a lot of the benefits aren't being collected by the cities that the teams are in, and so the tax that fall on the residents of that cities may allow the people who are fully gaining the benefits to escape the tax burdens of it. So let's talk about tax increment financing, TIF. So tax increment financing earmarks increased tax revenue to pay for the city's debt to its bondholders instead of adding a new tax. Okay. The new facility may stimulate tourism. The additional tourism could increase hotel occupancy rates, increase patronage at local bars, restaurants, so forth. And this added expenditure could lead to higher revenue from existing sales taxes and hotel taxes without the city having to increase taxes. And the city commits to using this additional tax revenue to pay its bondholders. Okay. So basically the idea is that they don't have to impose a new tax. They're just saying that because of this stadium, we're going to get increased revenue from more people coming into the city, and so that sales tax is going to increase revenue, and we're going to use that increased revenue to pay for the stadium. Now, this helps, by doing it this way, it helps to minimize the burden on tourists and local merchants But in order for it to succeed, the facility must cause tourist expenditure to rise for a long enough period. So you have to have that increased revenue for a long enough period. But as we talked about previously, the honeymoon effect wearing off can impact that how long those increased benefits are collected. So we're now going to turn to two mechanisms that try to allocate the burdens more equitably. So the first thinks of it in big. With Milwaukee, they decided to tax on a larger scale. So instead of the city funding the stadium, they funded on the entire metropolitan area, which is the city of Milwaukee and 5 surrounding counties. So the broader geographic reach accounts for the regional impact of the stadium, reducing the vertical and horizontal inequalities where the people in the suburbs enjoy the new stadium without actually having to pay for it. But it's a very broad brush when you're looking at it, and it's hard to kind of measure a lot of those different ways to figure out who's enjoying it. The second way is looking small, and this is done with Seattle. So the package of tax targets those who benefit from the facility. And so the way they did this was they said, look, the bars and restaurants are going to be benefiting the most. And so they imposed a sales tax of 0.5% on the bars, restaurants, taverns in King County, and a tax on admissions to the park. And so the sales tax tried to work more on the people who are benefiting indirectly, the restaurant owners and the people who would be going into the cities and then going to the bars after. But there are problems with this as well. There's also debt. So a bond is a promise to pay a holder a fixed amount, the face value of the bond, at some future point, which is called maturity. Both the face value and the maturity are stated and known on the bond, as are the bond's interest rate, which is known as the coupon rate. The interest payment on a bond is given by the coupon rate times its face value. Right? So for example, a 5% coupon bond pays the holder $50 each year, using the form of two $25 semi-annual payments. So if the city doesn't raise taxes, it must borrow. Now, borrowing to finance, it delays the inevitable. Now, so instead of paying it now, you still have to pay it, but you're going to pay it later. Now, state and local governments face institutional factors that lead them to prefer debt funding to direct taxation. Tomorrow's problem makes something more popular today. Now, individuals and small firms typically borrow money at a financial intermediary such as a bank. But large corporations and governments must directly go from financial markets by issuing bonds. Okay. And again, a bond is a promise to pay the holder a fixed amount, the face value of the bond, at a future point in time called maturity. So these are a few ways that stadiums can raise the money and pay, cities can raise the money and pay for the new sports stadiums.